All right. Hello, this is a test of attempting to build a poem with the collaboration of a large language model. In my case, I'm going to be using ChatGPT to help in the creation of a poem. And we're going to try to do this in as well, at least part of it in as real time as possible. Um, so this is the test, and we're going to see how this goes. We've got some background music, which I'm fiddling with to see how well that works in relation to the vocals. So with that, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to take a prompt that I've already put together and go ahead and paste that into the window. I'm using ChatGPT 4. I'm actually paying for it, but tell you what, for kicks and grins, we're going to go ahead and bump it down to 3.5. See how well this particular version does. So I try to start my prompts with this particular paragraph or some variation of it. This whole section here is what I would usually call a system prompt, and it basically sets up what the model is expected to do for this chat. In my case, I'm asking it to assume the role of a poet specializing in speculative poetry. Uh, for those who don't know, speculative poetry is poetry that uses the genres of either science fiction, fantasy, horror, slipstream, weird, you name it. If it's a genre fiction that's roughly in the category that you would see in science fiction or fantasy, then that is speculative poetry. And I'm also trying to give it an idea of a style that and I want the style to kind of resemble my own a little bit, as if I were describing it to somebody, or if somebody were describing my style to someone else. Uh, so tending towards the surreal with elements of whimsy. Use a lot of syncopation and rhythm along with alliteration and off-kilter rhymes. So I specifically want to write a poem, in this case, about the use of AI in poetry. And because I've had this image in my mind for a while, I wanted to incorporate the imagery of aphids and their relationship with ants. Now, before I start telling it to go write stuff, I actually want to have a bit of a conversation so that both I can get my head straight about what I want to ask it, and I want it to understand as much as possible about what I'm expecting from it and from this conversation. So let's start with here. And okay, well, it looks like we went ahead and started. Yeah, and this is why I'm not a big fan of using uh 3.5. It seems a little bit dumb when it comes the to me at least in terms of writing the types of poems I want to have written. Um, so I'm going to actually stop. I'm not going to use that. And we're going to switch. We're going to do a whole new chat. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and delete that one because, oh, whoops. All right, now we'll keep it. Skip it. And doop. Let's see if it creates a new one. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and remove that one. Yes. So unlike version 3.5, when I asked it to talk to me about aphids and ants, it actually starts a conversation about the relationships between aphids and ants. This is good. This is kind of what I want to have. Um, so there's a lot in here. Let's see. Soft body insects, feast on the sap of plants. Okay, yeah, yep. They produce honeydew. That's pierce the stems of plants. Okay. All right. Ants. Okay, they're attracted to the honeydew. Okay. I'm gonna work with this. Uh, and I actually had a question that clearly I was kind of working on beforehand, but I'm gonna go ahead and type that question. Actually, no, before I do that, I'm going to say here's some of the words that I'm interested in. Okay, yada yada yada. Let's see. Well, honeydew's important, clearly. Uh, mm, no, I had this other word did come to mind because I did do some practice with this. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit. And what is this? Okay, thriving. Flock. Okay. Um. One. The nagging question that springs to mind is this. Who are the aphids? And who are the ants? What do you think? I'm going to focus the piece on the let's see what I'm trying to do. I want to basically focus on the dilemma of answering this question. Yeah. Since we're basically doing an example here, I'm going to try to run through some methods that I use when I start this, and mileage is going to vary. But first, we'll get it to produce something. So let's say let's go ahead and start. Based on our station, express the dilemma in poetic form We'll keep it relatively short. Try to keep it under 25 lines. Okay. Liking what it's doing so far. And let's stop this. It annoys me when it rhymes like that. So let me remember to use your poetic voice. Actually, let me ask a different question. Let's not start just yet. What poetic structures could we use to express this dilemma? There we go. Let's try to narrow it down a little bit more instead of jumping right into the poetry. Let's go a level above and just try to see if we can get an idea of possible structures. Okay, pantoums, interlocking quatrains for the second and fourth lines, and the first and the third. Okay, all right. Parallel poems. Okay, interesting. Sestina, free verse. Free verse of anaphor or epistrophe. Interesting. Let's see. I'm gonna have it regenerate. Give me some more options. Okay, villanelle. Sticking with the villanelle. I think I recently tried doing villanelles and sestinas. It's Not normally what I do, but I could work with it. Free verse with anaphora, parallelism in couplets. I'm gonna pick one. Actually, you know what? Because I don't really care whether it strictly adheres to the forms. I'm gonna pick two of them and ask it to try to best combine them. So I'm gonna pick. Let's say go ahead. Let's use a combination of forms 4 and 5. No idea how this is going to come out. Do your best. Do your best to blend them. Incorporate as much insight use our conversation around the dilemma. All right, here we go. Okay, interesting little line here. A nice little punch there, potentially. Bit of a wet slap, but it's the potential to train this thing up. Maybe we can turn it into a punch. At this point, this is better than version 3.5. So I'm gonna do a couple of things to actually just kind of literally break this mold. Start with just some simple rules. I'm gonna try to rely. Well, I'm gonna take inspiration from the Oulipo literary school, which is a literary school started in France. It stands. Oulipo is an acronym. It translates to the Workshop for Potential Literature. And the idea is to use constraints and rules to give us better ideas for what is possible to be written. So I'm going to start with saying remove all articles. Okay, still leaves A, which is an article, but poet with heart full of shepherding unseen. Let's see. And let's see. remove. I'm seeing some things I want to remove. I'm going to basically chop and chop and then start doing some slightly weirder things in a minute. Remove the word, move all instances of the word are. In every line. Okay. Who aphids, who ants, we nurturers or nurtured. And let's see. Remove. Remove all conjunctions. And let's say replace. Okay, let's see. Add line breaks. At every comma or semicolon. Okay, let's see. Make all lines active voice. Let's just see what it does. Hmm. Uh, and we've got the articles sneaking back in. Let's see. Um, hmm. Inspiration, imagination. Apply. Let me see if it'll do this. Apply the n+7 rule to all words containing containing 4 or more syllables. This throws an element of randomness into it. The n+7 rule is normally applied to nouns, but the idea is to take for those who haven't heard of it, the idea is to take a noun and take every noun if you can, go to the dictionary, find the 7th word in the dictionary, and substitute that word for that noun. If you want to be more specific or grammatically correct, then you could look for the 7th noun in the dictionary. But I'm not really caring about how accurate this is, so we're just going to see what happens when it applies the rule. Whoa, okie dokie. There's something interesting. The humus of histoplasmosis. I kind of like the rhythm of that. I might wind up playing with that at some point. And let's compare that to what it did. I saw here, yada, yada, yada. Word in. Intertwining a machine and human. Where was that? That's interesting. The garden where humus of history. 4 more syllables. That was weird. That didn't have. I kind of like what this did, but I'm gonna have it redo it because I don't. Just to see whether it does something a little bit different. Like intertwining should change, for instance. Partnership should change. No, not partnership. Intertwining, yeah, intertwining should change. The algorithm should change. The algorithm versus potential. Right? Come on, baby. You can do it. Okay, interesting. I'm going to call this, just to give it a little feedback. I'm going to say it's the same in quality, and I'm okay with both. Um, I'm going to play with this for a little while, but one more thing I want to demonstrate is another um, another thing I sometimes do, which I may not keep, but I'm going to run with this anyway. And that's erasure. This is something I normally do if I'm really kind of frustrated uh, with what the system is doing and I can't get it to do what I want. You know what? And that's, to a degree, it's my other go-to method for ensuring something interesting happens. I don't know if I want to apply that just yet. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it for the purposes of this demonstration, since I've just mentioned it. So we're going to invoke the, what was it, Chekhov's rifle rule? The rifle has been mentioned, so I must use it. Okay, so erase 60% of the words at random. Actually, I'm going to do this. Turn this into an erasure poem. This should get a little weirder. Basically, sometimes when I think it's talking too much, or again, is giving me essentially a hot mess, or sometimes just because might not be a bad idea, I'll tell it to basically take whatever it did and erase roughly 60%, anywhere from half to 2/3 of the words that were generated. And the nice thing about this is I can have it regenerate over and over again until I get some combination that sits well enough with me. Okay, that is not what I wanted. Definitely not the format. Let's see if give it one more chance to do this again. I mean, it's definitely doing it. It's just not giving it to me in the format that I asked for. Well, that I was kind of hoping it would give me. Lesson to be learned. Uh, just because you think it's going to come out one way does not mean that this model uh, understands what you want. Yep, it's doing the same thing. I'm going to assume that I am not being clear enough. Um, making 60% changing the background color Let's see what it does with that. I'm probably still not being clear enough, but that's okay. You know what? That's cool. At least by trying to give it a clearer picture of what I'm wanting, it did the best. Okay, this will do for now. Well, at this point, I'm going to take what's been written and I'm going to kind of go off camera and do my own writing, an editing of this. And essentially, I'm going to riff off of this and bring it back into here. All right. So, alrighty. And with that, we're going to call this part one of the creation of this poem. We've basically told the model to assume a role. We've given it a topic, and we've also given it an idea of how it should try to go about writing. We've done a back and forth about the topic and kind of what we want to focus on. And we've also done a back and forth about the structure of the poem and finally the actual words themselves. So I've applied a couple of techniques to give both myself and the model something to work with. I basically cutting things like, any sort of thing that seems like an extraneous word or something that's repeated too often. And I've tried to jolt it out of trying to go for the average response, or even just taking the average response and beating on it until we get something that is not average. It may be good at the moment, but we're going to work on that. So until then. Okay, hello everybody. So some time has passed, approximately 3 months since I last recorded my conversation with ChatGPT regarding using that tool to create poetry. And now I've decided to get back to it and do the second part where I take some of the results from that conversation and go about editing it into something that is more along the lines of what I would like to write or like to see written. So with that said, oh, and in case you haven't noticed, I decided to not bother with that whole filter business because it was just kind of wonky. So you get to see my uh junky great room for in all its funky glory. So well, that said, let's get to it. All right. So as you can see, we are I like using a lot of patterns and neologisms in my own work. So what I decided to go about doing was to just take what was given and work with that to the to the best of my ability. And it was, I mean, it's always an interesting experience doing this sort of thing. It's to me it's as just as it's a challenge to create a poem based on a traditional form like a sestina or a villanelle, so is the challenge of taking something that is generated uh, by a machine and trying to uh, fit fit a message in it in some way that in a way that resonates with somebody in some way. At the end of the day, there's some, it evokes something in a person, even if it's okay, well that sounds nice. I mean, it doesn't necessarily even have to make sense. There's plenty of nonsense poetry that has no inherent meaning or inherent sense, but there is some aspect of the words on the page that still kind of resonates with people. And so it's one of the things I enjoy about using this technology, that it presents me with different ways of trying to create meaning, even if it's the illusion of meaning. As long as something gets evoked in the reader or the listener, I feel like my mission is accomplished. So with that said, I'm going to actually read this, and we will see where this winds up going, shall we? In the garden, digidreams and thought sap hum query. Who flourishes, who nurtures beneath the stars' canopy? In every line, a code's shadow. In every code, a poem's whisper. Who be the aphids, who be the ants, in the tapestry where beliefs and bites weave what we call soil? In the garden, humus of history blooms ideas. Who savors, who cultivates the hum honeydew? Is not the poet, with verses full of enzymes, shepherding the unseen? In every algorithm, a verse's potential. In every verse, an algorithm's secrecy. Who be the aphids, who be the ants, when fruiting inspirations teem in the undergrowth after the thunder dies away? In the garden, wet and woven minds extend tendrils. Who discerns, who decides the value of wrought nectar bars? In every question, a reflection. In every reflection, a question mirrored. Who be the aphids, who be the ants, cycling the receiving and the giving of imperfect syncopations. In the garden, futures bloom curious seeds. Who wonders whether dilemma, that dotty goddess, lies about the garden's edges? In every mystery, a partnership. In every partnership, a mystery unveiled. Who be the aphids? Who be the ants? Go ask the plants. Now, this piece clearly could, it still needs little bits of work here and there. But I liked the direction that it was going in. I'm still kind of mulling over what structural elements to change. I don't want to deal with punctuation. But again, this is the nature of the work of a poet, and the process of writing poetry. And as you can see, the only thing that's been added is I used a specific tool to engage with this topic and to come up with the raw wordage around which to work. So yeah, this is clearly this is not the end of the process, but it also, I feel validated in using this as part of my process, because I feel like I'm able to create more than I would alone. I mean, I can write a villanelle, I can write the traditional poem, in those structures. I choose to use the structures or lack of structures to get across whatever point I'm trying to make. And mileage is going to vary with people depending on how comfortable they are with the tool. As a programmer, I'm a lot more comfortable with it, and I also can explore other possibilities, such as using these large language models programmatically, and I'll demonstrate those at some point as well. But for now, let's leave that at this. I do hope to do more such videos, kind of describing, showing you how to go about using these new tools, to not to replace your work, but to give you more options, more creative avenues around which to work. So that's it. Have a good one.